Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Vuejs Nigeria virtual meetup, October edition. And so not to waste much of our time, we'll be going into what we have for the day. So today we have just one speaker, and our speaker is Temitope. And Temitope is going to talk about a quick dive into Nox 3 and composition API. So Temitope, you can come on board right now and introduce yourself and then start your presentation. So let me know if you can actually, let me make you the host and see if you can actually start. So yeah, over to you now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah, so I'm trying to share my screen now. Sorry, I'm going to have to rejoin. I don't use Zoom so often, so I need to allow permission and restart the app. So give me a minute.
Okay.
Share screen.
Yeah, I made you the host, so let me see. 1 second. Okay, try and see if you can actually share screen now. Can you share your screen? Check. So I made you the host. Try and see if you can share screen now. Okay.
Yeah, so can you guys see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for joining. I'm Temitope Adesoji, and I'm a software developer at ThisDot. ThisDot is an agency in the US that helps teams work on software products. Yeah. I've been at ThisDot for over a year now, and yeah, it's been fun. Today, we'll be talking about Nox 3 and composition API. And Nox 3 is, like, as everyone knows here, is still in beta, and it just came out. So we'll be doing a quick dive into it, talking about some of the new features and changes compared to Nox 2, basically. Yeah, let's start. Okay, so yeah, so from this first slide, we script all of this from the Nox 3 website. One is cross-platform support for Node.js browsers, service workers. Two is serverless support out of the box. 3 is API route for support. So API route for support. Now you can like create API routes within your Nox application, just like what Vercel had just like what Vercel has. So just creating like a server folder and creating an API folder inside that, then setting up your APIs there. Now also automatic code splitting, also hybrid mode for static and serverless sites. So now you can have both static and serverless in one application. So some of the files might be static, some might be serverless, and all of that. Last one is development server with auto-mode reloading. Yeah. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so now what we are just going to basically do is set up a Nux3 application, and I listed out some of the steps here, or the steps required to do that here. The major way we would work for this talk would be code. So we'll do like a lot of live coding, and yeah, let's see how that goes. So first, npx nux nuxi init. Yeah, so this is the new command that you need to run to set up your Nux3. And I have already done that. I'm not sure if you can you guys see my VS Code?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. So now when you run the first command, this is just the Nux-3-intro is just the name of the project, basically. So Nux to set up Nux3 inside this folder with this name Nux3-intro. And as you can see, we have that here, Nux3-intro. And also we cd into the folder, we run code to open up our VS Code. Then we run yarn install to install all the dependencies that are required. One very interesting thing about Nux3 is that it is quite light, and also Nux is now a dev dependency. So before, if you take a look at your previous projects, Nux2 projects and all, you find out that you have Nux under your dependency in package.json, but now you find Nux in your dev dependency, which is like a really big one, because that means on your production, you don't need Nux to run that again. Also, after running your yarn install, you run yarn dev, that's 0. And yeah, so basically, yeah, so to explain what I meant, this is it. So in our package.json, we can see that this is really light. We don't even have any dependency here. I think I have my next slide should talk about that. Yeah, so in our package.json, this is our sample old Nux project where you have your Nux under the dependency, but now you find out that your Nux3 is under the dev dependency. Yeah, so this is it, and this is very sweet. Yeah. So from here, from our previous slides, we have to run yarn dev at 0. So we do that. Yeah. And also now we find out that our application starts up very fast compared to before, compared to Nux2. For Nux2, there was always this loader where you see like a percentage and all of that, but now that is gone. And that is due to Nux switching their server to Nitro. So now Nux is being powered by Nux compilation, and all of that is being done by Nitro, which is pretty sweet. You can check out Nitro to yeah, to know about it. I think I would post the link towards the end of the call. Yeah. So now we have our site running on localhost 3000, and this is it. So before the call, I came up with like a little scaffolding to show us or to work with, basically. And yes, so let's go back to our slides. Sorry, my screens are quite messed up now. So there's a screen missing, my slide screen. Where are you? Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, so we've gone through this. And now, okay, so our next point is dynamic routes. So dynamic route, how does dynamic routes work in Knox 3? As we know in Knox 2, what you simply need to do is create your pages folder, and inside your pages folder, you can specify different pages, and Knox automatically generates your routes config for you. Same thing happens here, but there's a sweet change. First, you'll notice that now we have an app.view file inside the root of the project, which is quite interesting. And why did I say so? Now you can, okay, so before the project, yeah, when you run, the first scaffolding of the project comes with this Knox to welcome. And if we refresh our app, so you see this. So now you can you have to just simply turn that off. Yeah, and now we have our application back. So now what this means is, before we could only do layouts, then have our pages render inside the layout. But now it's possible for you to have things in your page that don't change no matter the layout. So for example, on this page, we have frameworks viewer. So this means that no matter the layout, frameworks viewer would remain on the page. That's one of the benefits. Also, some other things like you can specify certain CSS and they would be affected, they would affect or apply all the pages in your application, basically. Yeah. So now you can still use the old Knox 2 model, meaning you can delete your app.view file and just run directly from your layout folder and your pages. So that still works fine. But yeah, why should we do that? So we would leave our app.view, and to link it with our application, all we need to do is do Knox page. Also, when scaffolding the application, pages folder does not come with the application. So you have to create the pages folder. And what does that mean? That means before you create the pages folder, Knox does not bother with routing for you. That means you don't need your view router. So Knox does not need to compile that for you, to add that to bundle that with your application. But once you create the pages folder, that is going to be bundled with your application. Yeah. Can you guys still hear me? I feel like I've been talking for a bit.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So now I created a pages folder, right? And from our Leo scaffolding here, I did an header, a nav, and the main content, so a section. So here I have the index page started test, which is basically this, right? Because we are on the index page, and I have navigation and I have my header. Yeah. So in our pages, just like we have before in Knox 2, you can just simply do your index of view and have this, and that will automatically be applied inside your Knox page through your layout. So I created a layout folder that has default.view, which is simply the same thing we had before in Knox 2. And yeah, before I jump, let me go through the slide. Okay. I think there's still more things on dynamic routes. So for dynamic routes now, you don't use underscore ID or underscore name or underscore version.view anymore. You don't need to use the underscore syntax now anymore. Knox 3 has transitioned to the brackets sign. So you write it like this. So you just do something like this and you put whatever parameter you want inside it. So this is an example. We have frameworks, then we have a title, then we have version, ID, and all of that. So this has made it really easy with Nox 3. And one of the major reasons why that happened, why we are using this annotation now, is you can now easily do something like this. So let's say we need to do framework dash, say title.view. So now we can have something like this, and this would still render. Let's have templates. Then let's say, okay, no, let's do this. Testing framework title page. So yeah, so we are going to try to navigate to this page now and see what happens. So we have framework dash title. So yeah, we have this, and we have framework dash, let's say view. And now we have this. So what is wrong? We have to look for what's wrong. Pages, framework. Okay, so they might be an issue with, there's an issue with Nox 3. That's why it's still in beta. Sometimes your pages might not get compiled, or your composables or components and all of that. You have to restart. So let's give that a try and see if that's our issue. Hopefully. Okay, yeah, so that was the issue. Yeah, so now we can see we have testing framework title page. So we can simply change this to whatever we want it to be. And we have this. So this is pretty sweet. Yeah, so that's like a major reason for the switch to this syntax. Yeah, so I think we're done with this dynamic routes. Then layouts. Okay, I spoke a bit about layouts already. So we have our layouts just like we had it in Nox 2. And now to connect our layouts to other pages, what we need to do is use slots. I think previously we had to do Nox child. Forgetting writing that, but yeah, I think we had to do Nox child before, but now all we have to do is do slots. And this is quite interesting because this means that we can have named slots basically, and different pages can send data to different sections based on the name of the slot, which is very sweet. Yeah, so our layout still works the same way. You can have different layouts. For example, we can have another layout, and we can link that to our page using the layout. Yeah. So next we have components. Yeah. So now for components, one of the major changes in Nox 3 is your components are now automatically imported for you. So if you notice, if anyone noticed in our layout default file, I didn't import framework header or framework navigation, and they work basically. So all you need to do now is name your file how you want to call it. So for example, I named this file framework header, and to import that file, all I need to do is framework header, framework navigation, and we're good. Also, you can also do folders. For example, you can have, let's say, framework. And now inside framework, I can have header, the view. And here I can just copy this. So can we see that Nox is already giving us a warning in the console, 2 component files resolving to the same name. So that means we already have a clash. So I can have this here and rename this to, let's say, header 2, and have this, right? Okay, use that. Yes, I have this. So let's give this a try. Let's see. How do I get this guy? Okay. Okay, so we have header 2 here, and now here we can simply say header 2, right? And when we come back to our application and okay, so now we have an issue. Let's try to figure out what could that fail to resolve header 2. So let's close this and try to restart, and let's see if that solves it for us. Let's just refresh this. Yes, so that solved this for us. So there's still like you still find a little bit of what would I call it now, grease with Knox 3. Like some places are not refined yet. There's still tiny issues here and there. And yeah, so we can see now we have header 2 in our header. So dynamic imports, automatic imports now. You don't need to do imports like you do in your Knox 2 anymore. Yeah, so that's that about components. Let's move on. Okay, now this is the sweet part, composition API. Okay, before I go forward, are we following? Does anyone have any quick thing to say? Okay, yeah, I guess we are all good and everybody here understands.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so
just one question.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you hear me? All right.
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I just want to clarify. So this list of items you're going through are things that Knox gives you, right? That goes beyond what you get from Vue, right?
Yes. Yeah. So
Okay.
A lot of these things. Okay. Some of these things are, or a lot of these things are available in Vue, right? But for example, in your Vue, you would have to set up your router by yourself. But in Knox does that for you. So Knox sets up
out of the box
your router config for you. Yes, based on Knox to create the your router for you, basically. So in your Vue, instead of you going to go and do Vue router and do all of that imports, in Knox, once you just create your pages and you name it, based on the name, Knox will generate that for you. So
okay,
that's
okay.
like
So
yeah,
okay, I understand. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that's fine. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you guys. Composition API. Composition API has been available for, I think, close to a year now, or over. But yeah, Knox 3 supports composition API way better now. And yeah, okay, one thing I forgot to speak about is Vola. Am I correct? Let me see. Yeah, Vola. So Vola is an extension that the Vue team recommends for Vue users, for Vue developers. A lot of support when building a Vue application. So that has simply trickled down to Knox. So now your Knox application, if you're working with Knox 3, I would 100% recommend you to download the Vola extension in your VS Code and make use of that. It would greatly help you. Yeah, so what were we on? Composition API. So composition API is pretty sweet, and I'm sure you guys would love it. I have an example here that I was going to use. Okay, yeah, let's do this. Okay, before we go to that part, this you have yeah. Which page do we have open? We have framework opened. So let's try something here. So scripts, and we can do this. So, but this is not, because we don't have Vue/composition API, like in this application, this is not a Vue application, this is a Knox application. We can't do this. So in Knox, you can simply do this app. And define component is no longer available in app. What would be available is define next, if I'm not wrong, yeah, define next component. And you can simply do like this, and you have this. So anybody that's played, has anyone here played with composition API in Vue before?
Yes.
Okay. So you'd find that we have similar syntax apart from all these guys. We have similar things. And I will still, as we go forward, I will still simplify it by removing all these guys. And I just want to make sure that we understand some of the basics. Yeah, so one very sweet thing about Nox 3 is Nox 3 imports everything you need for you, as you call it. You don't need to manually do this import. You don't need to, like, Nox 3 does that for you out of the box, which is sweet. So now we can have something like this. Let's say, let framework name is equals to Vue, right? Now, all we need to do here is return framework name. So what does this do for us? This means that we now have framework name within our application. So here we can say testing framework. Instead of title, we can say framework name page, right? And once our application builds, we have testing framework view page. That is cool, right? Yeah, before I go further, I will talk about, this. So this is a sample code of how you would previously do, how you previously write your script in Nox Vue. You do your data and return an object. You do your computed with your functions, to your method, your mounted, and you can call your methods from your mounted and all of that. But now, one of the major drawbacks of this is, for example, just to, what's it called? Just to get, just to do my fetch frameworks, I have to call it in mounted, then I have to do this here. So it is not very good for feature building. So for feature building, for example, you have to have your data, you have to have your something in your mounted to fetch, you have to have your function, your methods, and all of that. So there were split logic. Do you understand? The logic is split across different places, but now with composition API, it is grouped logic, which is one of the sweet things about the composition API. And as we go forward, we'll also look at composable. Yeah, so this is the old logic, right? But now we don't need to do. But one of the major things here, right, is this value is not reactive. So this value, if it changes, it does not affect our page, right? So let's do something like this. Let's do button. Let's click. Change framework name. Yeah. So now let's create this here. So let's say const, sorry. Here, let's say framework, sorry. Framework name is equals to React. Yeah. So now we can't use this directly again. What we have to do is we have to return it. So for whatever value here you want exposed to your UI or to your template, sorry, you have to return it. So here we have to do this. So can you see the error has removed from there. So here, so let's go back to our, oh, sorry, we didn't have anything here. So let's say change framework name. So now we have a button, and when we click on this, let's open up our terminal. Yeah. I'm trying to increase that zooming. Yeah. So now we click on this and this is not changing. Why? Because this value is not reactive. Let's log this value. So just to see that it actually changed in this place, but it's not being reflected in our UI. So we did that right. Yeah. So can you see the value changed here, but it's not being reflected on our UI. So what do we need to do to make the value get reflected on our UI? To make framework name reactive, all we need to do is simply do ref. And now automatically framework name becomes reactive. That is one of the sweet things about the composition API. And also now you can find out that we don't need to import ref, because automatically behind the scene, Noxstars imported ref for us. If we don't call ref here, Nox would import ref for us. But now that we've called ref here, Noxstars automatically imported ref for us. And one of the things about ref is ref would wrap your value in some sort of identifier, and that is what will be passed to your framework name. So here, framework name, we're getting this error because we can't, is a ref value. Do you understand? We have to do dot value. So our error is gone. So now we have framework name dot value is equals to React. So now we call framework name. But also one of the good things is when you are referring to this value in your template, you don't need to do dot value to access it. Like you just call it like this and it is the value that would be represented. So here now, sorry. So now let's look, when we click this, it changed to React. And now we can see that here. So this is the wrapper basically, and this is the value, React. So that is that. So now we understand how to make values, how to make well, I call it now, how to make things reactive basically in Nox. And also there is another way to make things reactive, which is using the reactive method. So let's say let framework name 2 equal to reactive. Sorry. So now say Angular, right? Yes. So one of the, okay, before I jump into this, let's do something like this. Type to Angular. Yeah. So let's do this and let's change this to the value. So I think I'm getting ahead of myself here. It's so sweet. So let's do this. So let's do the, yes. So we have framework name 2 here, right? And now we can simply do framework name 2 the title. So can you see the IntelliSense here? Like it already knows that it's title that is available. So Vola is really powerful. So now we're calling title here. Now we can see Angular here, which is for our reactive guy here. And one of the differences between refs and reactive, so you guys would be asking, so why 2? Why do we have ref? Why do we have reactive? One of the differences between ref and reactive is when you are doing reactive, right, you don't need to do dot value. So now to change this, to change framework name 2, all we need to do is framework name 2 dot, I'm sorry, framework name 2 is equals to, let's change it to, what else is that out there? Astro. So say framework name 2 is equals to Astro. No, that won't work because framework name is an object. So say title, I will say Astro. So we have this, right? So let's check, save, and once we click our button, so once we click our button, let's notice the change here. We see React, and now this didn't change. Why did that happen? So that value did change. So framework name 2, we have it here. Okay. So let's see. Let's down again. Yeah. Framework name 2. So what we'll figure out why that is not working. That should work. Yeah, this should work. Why? Okay, let's log this guy. Console.log. Our helper. So we have this, right? And we have our title here to be Astro. So let's see. So I think I'm having an issue with this guy. But one of the other differences I would like to point out with reactive is reactive only accepts primitive types. So that means you can only pass objects into your reactive. You can't pass, for example, a string of view. This won't work because reactive has to be of a primitive data type. So let's go back to this. You find that most people recommend you to use ref a lot of the time because ref allows you to do like a lot of things. For example, you can also assign ref to a particular element in your view component. We'll get back to why this isn't working in a bit. But yeah, let me give an example of how to assign a ref value to your components. Or do we still have time? Wow, we're getting really low on time. So let's do this. So let's say no, and let's say framework title component, right? And we have this. We can simply pass that out here. And what we need to do here is say ref and this. So what does this mean now? This means this value would become this entire div here. So we can do something like this to see it. So let's move this guy, this guy. So can we see that we now have this value? So this framework title component now points to this DOM element, basically. And yes, let's quickly move to the next slide. Time has gone and we have a lot to cover. Okay, server. Before we jump to server, let me quickly talk about composables. Yes, composables. So composables are a way for you to extract logic from your components and bring them out, basically, and reuse them. So majorly to prevent code split, code duplication. Yeah. So for example, in my framework, okay, let's do this here. So in my navigation, right, we have Vue and we have React list here. Before the call started, I set up a basic server. Was that this, right? A basic JSON server. So what does the JSON server contain? Vue, like just a list of frameworks. So we have Vue, React, Angular, right? And we need that data here, right? So let's do this script. Yes. So one of the good things about Nox now is you don't need to do all this extra complication that I did in that first one. All you can just simply do is setup. And with setup, it automatically does this for you. So whatever you would have put inside here, you can simply just do here, which is very sweet. So now, before the call, also, I created a composable called use framework, the use framework. So what does use framework do? Use framework basically abstracts all this data that would have been inside, where's that guy? Inside here, inside the setup, basically abstracts it out for me and makes it reusable. So now, like we discussed before, we've spoken about the ref, so meaning that this value is reactive. I have set up a loading. So I'm basically doing a fetch request to the endpoint I created for frameworks and passing that data. Every time we're doing a fetch, we have to convert the response to JSON. So I'm basically doing that here. And anytime we're trying to access a ref, we have to do dot value. So I pass the data into that value. And now I return this. So I'm returning get all frameworks, which is a function to make the API call and return the data. Frameworks, which is the list of frameworks that would get updated once we call get all frameworks, and loading, which is the state of the request, right? So now here I can simply do use, what's it called, framework. So can you see how sweet this is? Nox already knows that I'm trying to refer to, Vola already knows I'm trying to refer to my composable use framework, because once I start typing it, use framework. So you can see from my IntelliSense, you can see what use framework exposes to me. Get off framework this, and we can simply pass that. So let's say get of frameworks. What else is there? Frameworks. What else is there? Logic, right? So now get off frameworks. So we need to call get off framework because get off frameworks is a function, right? So do this, right? And how we have our frameworks. So let's do a loop here. So let's remove that. Do it here. So let's say framework index in frameworks, right? And now we have to specify our key. Let's use the index because the index would never be the same, 0, 1, 2, and all of that. So we have our framework, and now another, let's say we have framework name. So yeah. So basically what happens here, on setup, it does this and calls this, but now we can just call this. As you would do in your Nox2 application, unmounted is when you would want to call this, or uncreated or whatever. In your Nox3 also, you can do that, but in your Nox2 you have to just do mounted, but for your lifecycle hooks. But now in Nox3, all you need to do is add on to it and unmounted. That gives you a function, and you can do this. And now you can simply call get off frameworks unmounted. And now this is pretty sweet, right? Once we get off frameworks, this gets updated automatically, and this value gets changed automatically. We didn't need to do data unmounted, create the method, and all of that. All that has been abstracted away into our use framework, composable. Why? What did I change in this file? Okay, I just added that.
Hi, Temitope. I don't know if you can still hear us. Okay,
No, we can.
I think his network actually went off. So maybe we'll just give him a few minutes and then see. So far, if there's any question, we can actually just put it in the chat section, and when he comes around, we'll just give it to him to answer while waiting for him. Okay, so while waiting for Temitope, maybe we should just like have a discussion pending when he comes on board. Is there anyone here who have actually like gone through the Knox tree who can actually just give us like what you feel about Knox tree compared to like Knox 2 and the rest? So we just have like a discussion section while waiting for Temitope to join us. So anyone can actually take
Yeah.
it. Mike.
Temitope is back.
Hi guys. Sorry about that. My internet just cut off for some very weird reasons. Yeah. So hope I wasn't going too much. Are you guys? Were you guys following? Were you guys able to catch up? I don't know if I was too fast.
Yeah.
Oh, the pace was okay.
Okay. Okay. So let me get back to sharing my screen. We'll soon be done and we'll all discuss thing. Yeah. So we have our framework navigation, and that is simply this, which we've done. And now, yeah, we created before the call, I created a simple layout, frameworks, title, version, ID, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so we have frameworks and the title is dynamic, right? And we have an index page. And what happens on this index page? So we don't need this. Yep, we don't need this. We don't need this. So what basically happens on this index page? I'm using use route. So to access your router, what you need to access your route. By their various IDs. So here we have title, right? So let's try to link this page with our sorry. Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can. I think your network.
I'm really sorry about this, guys. Yeah, I'm really sorry about this. By the way, Ghana's internet is rubbish. I'm coming back to Nigeria soon. Hope nobody's from Ghana here. Yes, so yeah, we're back again, and we want to link this guy to our pages, right? All we need to simply do is in our component navigation. So let's create it. We see our router link, so pretty sweet. Yeah, this, and now two, right? So let's pass an object into that has a name. And now, do we know the name of the page? Let's try to get the name of the page, right? So we want it to we want the page to be linked to this page. So all we simply need to do is do this. Let's log route. What's the name? Yeah. So what's the name of this page? So okay, no, it's to page is framework. That's how the naming happens. So if we're inside what happens is frameworks title version. Like so in our framework application name always, and that's based on framework name. So do param. Then inside params, we specify title. And title, let's look at something. Before we left it as empty. So what we are simply saying is, okay, let's do this. Yeah. My internet keeps going off.
Okay.
No, don't reboot it, please. Let me try to rush up what I have to do because I can't see this internet anymore. So, yeah, sorry, can you guys see my screen? I'm sorry to be cutting off this much.
Yes,
Yeah, I
sir.
can see.
Yeah, can you guys see my screen? Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
I can.
okay, yeah. So if we see, yeah, if you see this place where it shows the link, like at the bottom of my page, try to look at it. You're just going to be seeing this current name, right? Because we left it as empty. But now, once we put in our name, framework title, put in our params, and title as the framework name, and we save that, you would see. So now we have framework slash view, framework slash React, framework slash Angular. So now let's do this. Now on our page, title view, we do this, title React, we do this, title Angular. So with that, we've simply done routing. And this is basically the same as you would have done in your Knox 2. Your difference is just the way you now do dynamic routes here. Yeah, I think I should stop here. We can also look at server. Now your Knox, I think I spoke about this briefly. You can do, you can create a server folder. Inside the server folder, create API. Inside the server folder, also you can create middleware, and your middleware will always run on every request. So basically, for every part, your middleware will run. But for your API, it would run based on the name. So for example, I created a server API, then I created a framework API basically, and this framework API simply returns an object or framework that is an empty array. And now if we go to our browser and we do something like this, localhost 3000 slash, what is it called, API slash framework, right? We simply see this. So this is an endpoint that we can connect to our page. So for example, you have an endpoint, or if you're trying to do like a proxy, that kind of thing. Yeah, this would easily work for that. Yeah, I think I stop there for now and we should discuss. Does anyone have questions? Have you worked on Knox 3 before? And do you have any feedback? Do you have anything you want to talk about? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Temitope. I really learned a lot actually. I've not worked on Knox 3, but I've worked with Knox 2. And just going through your presentation, what fascinates me the most, I would say, is the automatic imports. The fact that I don't have to import watch, I don't have to import use route or use router or store when I'm working with composition API. And that really fascinates me because, of course, when you import those things, you would have a file, like your component file would be a lot larger, like longer. But at least now that you don't even get to see those import statements, you get to see your files, not the file, the length of your files not being longer. And I was thinking that those imports, like let's say I'm using watch. I was thinking that the reason why I'm able to use watch without importing it is because it has already been imported. But I don't think so. Like you said, I think you said that it's when you use it, that's when it gets imported. And that for me is, and the fact that it doesn't even get imported and you get to see it on the page. So everything is happening behind the scenes. That's really fascinating and helps to improve the performance. Yeah. So my question would just be around, I know because of time, you didn't get to like maybe go through everything. I don't know if there's any major change in terms of store like Vuex. I don't know if any major change.
So that is like a very, very good question. I also planned on talking about stuff, but I was like, there's not going to be time for this. So there are basically, should I say, two ways now of doing your store. It's possible for you to do away with Vuex and use your composables. You understand? For example, so in your composables, you can do something like there's something called use states. Yeah. So you can have something like use states, and inside your use state, you can basically use that to manage state now. And yeah, I think everyone should actually read up more on the composition API. The composition API is like really interesting, and now merging the composition API with the power of Nox 3 is just crazy. So yeah, you can, what's it called? You can still use your Vuex exactly the same way you use it. And everyone should also know that currently, even in your Nox 3, you can still do the same export defaults, then do your data return. You can still do all of this. All of this syntax still works very, very fine. Do you get? But the suggested way to do it is to just use the composition API, because if you're building like a small application, then no problem. You can simply still use this same options API, the syntax for this. But if you're trying to build larger applications where code duplication is common, it is very better and very advised to use the composition API and thus group all of that logic to one place. So for example, I simply want to know, I come to the application and I want to know, oh, how are you getting frameworks and doing all of this? I don't have to start looking at one file and looking at the data and all of that. I'm still seeing other logics inside there, because on the framework, for example, we start here on this file. Let's say we needed to get some other data, for example, we would have still added that to the data, added that to the mounted, added that to the methods, and that whole file will get way longer. But with the composition, you can just abstract each logic out and simply call it and use it when you want. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
So is there anyone else that's
nice.
stuck?
Sorry, I was going to ask, is the composable API, is it readily available on Vue or just on Nox?
Yes, so all these things I spoke about are basically Vue features, right? Nox is just building on top of Vue. So the composition API is a Vue thing. Do you understand that is like working in Nox basically? So it's definitely available. And also note, the composition API can be used in Nox too. You get, so you can still use your composition API in Nox. Yeah. You just have to do, I think you have to import it from Nox.js/composition. API. Yeah,
Okay.
but all those are readily available. Yeah. I think we should all talk about how sweet it is that
Awesome.
Nox is now a dev dependency and no longer a dependency. Like you don't longer see it in your dependency, meaning like this is only available in your dev environment. I think that's like one of the biggest things for me in this Nox 3 update. Yeah, so does anyone else have any question, anything to talk about? Hi, Chinedu, hi, David, Irilwan, Joshua, Gift.
Is there a way I can access your code? Probably on a repo.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I should probably push that up. So I'll do that after this call or later today. I think I have something else to do immediately after this call. But yeah, I'll push that up and let you guys know. Yeah.
So once he pushed the code, we'll send it as a message through the meetup.com to the attendees. So you'll probably get a link to the code.
All right, thank you.
I don't know if anyone has
Hey.
any more questions to ask the Meetup. You can shoot now. Shoot it now.
Yeah, I think that's it for me. That's all for me.
Okay, Meetup, I think that's all from the audience. I think there's no more question. So in the accept of no question, we'll be uploading this video to our YouTube live because we couldn't connect the YouTube live to this particular section. So after the meetup today, we'll be uploading it to YouTube live and then sharing it with the meetup slide and his code base, sharing it to the attendees. So you probably receive a mail from meetup.com. So maybe later today, once the meetup is able to like upload to GitHub. So yeah. So thank you so much, Temitope, for this quick dive into Nox Tree, and we really appreciate your time and your efforts.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for the opportunity. Anyone here can definitely reach out to me, my email and Twitter and those. I don't know, can you guys still see the screen?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah. So if I don't know if anyone have any other thing to say. If not, I think we have come to the end of today's section. So I'll see you all in November. Thank you everyone for joining our October edition for Vuejs Nigeria virtual meetup. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.